Okay, this is another microphone, so I don't know how it sounds, but hopefully it does sound. So what is your opinion of this particular microphone soundingness? Hi, Ace! Yes. Sound! Decent sound? Sound that one can live with for the duration of the broadcast? But anyway, so yeah, last time I tried to file a claim, last time this happened, when we were out of power for 4 or 5 days, and I tried to file a claim for food spoilage, State Farm was like, nah, no, you're not covered for that. So yeah, and then I was like, I'm switching my damn insurance in case this ever happens again, and did I ever do it? No, sure didn't. So yeah, I'm just going to be out of pocket, all of that food spoiled money. What I am going to be doing is taking all of the things from my freezer and cooking them and distributing them to everybody over the next few days. I just gave away a bunch of carne guisada today, and tomorrow I think might be shrimp, because I've got some shrimps in my freezer, and yeah, we'll see. we're just gonna feed the masses, and we're gonna call this the universe saying that I needed to clean out my freezer. So, welcome to the first Wednesday evening tutorial in a while. I'm so happy to be back. I'm so happy not to be growling my guts out and sick as a dog. So I'm so happy to be here with you guys. That didn't sound good. Oh God, I can't even imagine being in a like being by a crane in those crazy straight line winds. Holy crap. I would have been petrified. So I'm really glad that you're okay, Jennifer. Yeah, it was God, and it was a super fast moving storm too, and it just hit, and it was like the power was like flicker 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 flicker, and I'm like, come on, and it goes off, and then back on like 2 seconds later. I'm like, okay, cool. And it goes off. I'm like, come on. Nope. That was 6:30 yesterday morning, and I still don't have power.
Okay, super fast moving storm. I was in my bathtub for 2 hours.
Okay, but the really blowy part of it wasn't that long.
The really blowy part of it was not that long. You're right, but
and
it
also
was still scary.
Maybe it's just the winds that were fast. Also, maybe I'm just completely, clueless, because I get that way sometimes. But at least neither of us had to worry about a crane falling on us.
Right?
So there's that. Okay, so we are doing tonight my blacklight mandala pendants, and anyway, that's what we're doing tonight. So what do we need to do these things? We need to move our keyboard for starters. So we're going to put our keyboard over here. So we're going to need some cardstock, and I like this super bright white cardstock because it gives me a nice kind of base for everything. We are going to need embossing ink and embossing powder. So for anybody who's not super familiar with these particular so embossing ink is basically a sticky ink, and there's a bunch of different brands of it that you can get. This is the one I just happened to grab off of Amazon. And then embossing powder is a powder that will stick to the sticky embossing ink and will allow us to create a raised surface of outlines on our pendant, which is, in my opinion, one of the things that makes it look cooler than just if it were flat stamped. And then I'm gonna need a stamp, and so I just grabbed this one from my stamp box today. So that's the one we're gonna use for our mandala today. And then we're gonna need blacklight reactive paints, and this is, I will say, one of my favorite brainstorms was to store the paint in the syringes, because it keeps the air away from them, because all of my pots of blacklight reactive paint are completely and totally, except for that one, okay, for the most part, are dried up and useless. And so the paint in the syringes, since it's been kept away from the air, is still viable. And then I need a tiny little paintbrush. I also gonna need some water, which I did not grab. So I'll grab some water in a second. And then And that's pretty much it. So paints, stamp, embossing ink, embossing powder. I find a hole punch to be very helpful when I'm doing this because I'm terrible at cutting circles. You're also going to need a vehicle for your pendants. You're going to need a bezel cup and a glass cabochon that fits over your bezel cup. And then in order to set your embossing powder, a heat gun is really helpful. I used to do it over a candle, and you can totally still do that. It's absolutely 100% valid to, thank you, see, that's smart. It's absolutely 100% valid to use a candle for this, but the heat gun gives you a little bit of a cleaner finish, and I will say that I am definitely guilty of having scorched my paper a couple times with my candle. And then I do have just a little piece of scrap paper that I'm gonna be squirting my paints out on so I can use them. I'm just gonna grab some water real quick. Okay. Okay, so, all right, so before we start painting, we're gonna actually make the background for our mandala. So, also I have, I got one of those wood burning pens, and so I'm gonna try this with my heat gun and see how this works on my Palo Santo here. So that's gonna go over to the side for the moment. All right, so let us have it. Okay, this audio capture seems to be capturing sound, so we're going to use this one. I don't even know what the heck is going on. Okay, so going back to what I was saying when there was no sound. So I'm going to take my embossing ink, and I'm going to take my stamp, and I want to make sure that I get my stamp really well coated in my embossing ink. So just really make sure that you just kind of give it a good roll around on your ink pad. And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to use the corner of my cardstock, and I'm just going to press that down. There's nothing on that. This could be bad. Hi, Lori! Yeah, somebody should have checked that ink pad before, before I did this, because it needs a refill. So anyway, that's okay. We are going to continue on despite damn the torpedoes. Okay, so I'm actually going to use something different for my embossing. I'm going to use some diamond glaze instead. So I'm just going to put some of that on this. So the idea here is I need something that's kind of sticky on my stamp to get my embossing powder to stick. And normally that would be my embossing ink, but I forgot to bring my spare embossing ink and my pad needs a refill. So we're going to use some diamond glaze instead. I'm going to talk about what diamond glaze is in a little bit because we're going to use it in several aspects of this project. So again, I'm going to put this down and stamp it, and what I should have wow. Heather is closing the drawer, Jason. I promise she's still here. We didn't you know, eject her from the ejector seat or anything. Wow, I am sucking it up with this tonight. Okay, so the problem, I think, is the stamp that I picked is a little bit too detailed. So, hold please. I just got diamond glaze on my mouse. So, you know, it's always fun times when the thing you're trying to do on the internet decides to screw up. Okay, so the problem I'm having here is that my stamp that I grabbed from home this morning is a little too detailed for the fact that my embossing ink isn't really working. So I'm trying to do this with some diamond glaze. And what I just really want is I want a good impression of my stamp so that my embossing ink will stick to it. So we're going to try this one more time. Let's see this stamp, if it works. Okay, well, that might not be bad. Alright, so then I'm going to take my embossing powder and ideally I'm going to sprinkle it over all the places that I had that diamond glaze. And then I just take that, grab a receptacle and tap that off. Okay, so I don't have a really great outline, but I have this kind of interesting abstract outline. So we're gonna go with that for now. And then my leftover embossing powder, I can actually, assuming I leave the lid off, I can actually put that back into my jar. So you are gonna, you know, your embossing powder is a consumable, and you're gonna lose it, you know, as you go forward with the projects, but you can recycle at least some of it. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my heat gun and I'm gonna heat this whole thing, and that's going to cause my embossing powder to melt. And the reason that I like using embossing powder for this is because I like the raised look of it. Okay, so that's now my embossed piece. So this is raised and shiny. And okay, so that's my embossed image. And just for grins, I'm gonna try this with my Palo Santo, my little embossing or my wood burning pen. We'll see if Temu is gonna let me down here. The good news is I don't have a whole lot of faith where Temu is concerned, so. That's not working so good. So the answer to your questions, people, is do not buy wood burning pens off of Temu. I'm back! Hi, Corvus! Yes, it has returned to the internets. So, alright, so I managed to get some design stamped on here. I embossed it, so now I've got this kind of raised shiny black. So now I'm going to work on painting that with my black light reactive paints. So I'm just going to take, and I actually, at home, I use the palette paper, that kind of waxy paper, but I'm just going to use a regular Beading Dreams tally sheet at this point. I'm going to give myself a few blobs of paint on it. So again, these are my black light reactive paints, and I've got them in syringes, which by and large helps to keep them fresh because it minimizes their exposure to air. And I've got a bunch of different colors of black light reactive paint. I'm not going to probably use all of them tonight. So I've got the orange, and I've got, oh wow, that was a lot of yellow. Okay, that was unexpected. Thank you, Corvus. I missed you guys too. I'm glad I took the break. I just wish I could like do all of the things all of the time. And a little bit of the pink. So you got to be a little careful what happens. See, it'll develop a little like crusty bit on the end, and then you got to be careful, otherwise it'll squirt out a whole bunch. So let's see. Oh, there's no paint in that one. Okay, I think that's all right. And then I like having my portable black light so that I can kind of take a look and see what things are looking like. All right, so I'm gonna use a very small paintbrush. Okay, a wee tiny small paintbrush. And one more thing, I need a paper towel. No, Corvus, I need to be superhuman. Don't want to hear none of that you only human garbage. It's no good at all. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and paint this. And this is probably not going to be my most exciting paint job ever, but I like the embossing powder because it gives me kind of a really defined place where I can put my paint. And this is abstract, so I'm just painting. The yellows and the oranges will really pop pretty dramatically under the black light. The pink is a little bit less, and then if I had any of the blue, the blue almost is a receding color, so it doesn't show as much, which is kind of nice for dimension. So I'm literally, I have no plan here. I'm just filling in all of the spaces in between where I embossed with paint. Again, so my embossing ink pad was not working great because it needs a refill, and so I was using diamond glaze, which did not work well with my little mandala stamp there. So instead I used another stamp, and we have kind of an abstract thing going on here. And I really like, when I'm doing this, I like having my blacklight flashlight so that I can see, well, that's terrible. You can't see anything. But so that I can see what my, no. Okay, hold on. Yeah, so I can see what my things are doing. So, so we do have, yeah, there we go. Okay, so I gotta turn there. So that's what it looks like with the black light. So extremely dark without, but it's nice to have my blacklight flashlight so that I can kind of check as I'm going along to make sure that I like what I'm doing. So we do have, we're back, we're full on back this week, so that means we do have at 7:30, 7:45, we're gonna have the Buttonless podcast, and we will be concluding the Hope Diamond podcast with part 2 and all of that craziness. And then we'll be on to another gemstone for our next podcast, which is going to be in 2 weeks. Now, something else that I do find fun with the blacklight paints is sponges. So you can always, if you're feeling like you don't want to just paint all of these little bits and pieces, you can totally like sponge around the edge, and just then add another color on top of it. And then it looks like you spent a whole lot of time painting that, and you really didn't. You just went like smashity, smashity, smash, and it's done. So I'm a huge fan of things that look like I spent a lot of time on them, but I really didn't. And you can kind of overpaint this whole thing, because we're going to cut this out in a minute using our hole punch. And if you pounce like a little bit of that yellow on top of the blue, the yellow is going to come to the forefront where the blue is going to recede, and that's fun. Okay, so there's my cool little abstract painted bit. Unfortunately, I'm going to wind up wasting some paints, but that's because it's been a hot minute since I did this. Actually, I won't. I'll sponge finish something between streams so that I don't waste them. So now we're going to dry this. Hey, look, I have a heat gun. Let's see. So what's everyone been doing while I've been off the air? Give me some interesting stories, please, while I'm drying this. Let's see. Question from Corvus. Yes, they are normal acrylic paints, just blacklight reactive. Okay, so I have my half painted, half sponged piece here, and I'm just going to give that a second to cool. Okay, Julie, do I need to wrap you in bubble wrap? Like, what the heck? So Julie made the honor roll and also scratched her cornea. How did you scratch your cornea? Seriously, what the heck? Just curious. Yay! And Corvus has been editing podcasts, which is awesome. And she learned to make memory wire bracelets. That's fantastic. Love that. Okay, so this is now dry. So now we're going to punch that out. So you could absolutely use the circle template and draw a circle that is the right size and just cut it out with the scissors. But seriously, y'all, look how much easier this is. You put it into the punch, and then you go snick, and then you have a circle. Like, so much easier. Again, if you're not making a ton of these, this is a pointless investment, because these guys are like 10-15 bucks each, and especially if you start making different sizes, then you need. It was in the thing the whole time. Whatever. Anyway, if you're going to do a lot of these, then it's worth it to get the punch. If you're not going to do a lot of these, then it's really kind of a pointless expense, because you can just take a circle template, trace it around, and cut it. So this is the one thing about my punch is this is a 1 1/4 inch circle punch, and it's a little too big for my bezel, so I'm going to just take my scissors. I'm just going to shave around the outside just a little bit. Just to make a slightly smaller circle. Like so. And so what you want, ideally, is you want a circle that's going to sit down into your bezel. So let's talk for just a second about bezel cups. You can get these babies on Amazon, and they oftentimes come as a set. So you've got your bezel, and then you've got a clear glass cabochon that goes on top of it. I highly recommend buying them in sets, even though it's not always the most cost-effective way to do it. You don't have to worry about, is this gonna fit into this? If you buy them as a set, they should just fit. Like that's how they're sold. Versus getting out there with your caliper and being like, okay, well, I'm gonna get 15 dozen of this size bezel cup, and then I need to go find 15 dozen of this size cabochon, and like, yeah, it's just a huge pain in the butt. I highly recommend buying the sets. Galaxy stamps do look amazing. I've done several with the Galaxy stamps. Like I said, this was kind of and of course I just discovered that I had extra embossing ink in my kit the whole time. But what I'm going to do, and I will kind of show you. So what I'm going to do with my extra, so I've got my circle cut out. We're going to go back to that in a second. What I'm going to do with my extra paints here is I'm going to find my bigger piece of cardstock, and I'm actually going to make a sponge background that I can then stamp just my stamps on top of, and I don't have to do any hand painting if I don't want to, unless I want to just embellish or accent. So I'm just going to take my sponge and just start, because I have all of this paint that just kind of spooged out of my syringes, so I'm just going to use that to make the background. And then I can do my stamps and my embossing on top of this, and that way I'm not wasting my paints. Because these guys are not super expensive, but not cheap either. I do need to order some more because mine are at the end of their lifespan. But so now I have this, and I will turn down the exposure on the camera and put the black light on that and show you what that looks like. So you have this cool, just kind of like modeled effect of all of those colors. So you can just take your stamp right on top of that with your embossing ink and your black, and you don't even, like I said, you don't even have to do any accent painting if you don't want to. So that's just gonna, and I usually, for my blacklight kind of supply, I will usually have a bunch of these just kind of hanging out in different color combinations, so that I can just work on whatever blacklight piece I want to at the moment. Yes, we've succeeded in corrupting a Corvus.
Uh-oh.
I mean, not that it's hard.
We've only succeeded now. We've failed.
Well, we've only succeeded now for blacklight stuff.
Oh, okay. Acceptable then.
Okay, so now it's time to put this whole thing together. So this is where we use this product. And when I was first making these, I was using Elmer's white glue, and it just doesn't work as well as this. I'm sorry, like, Judikins, you really do have a good product. So this is Judikins Diamond Glaze, which it looks like is backwards, but this is, they call it dimensional adhesive. It works similarly to Mod Podge. It is Mod Podge, people, not Mod Podge. Mod Podge, it works similarly to gel medium if you're an artist, but it is, in my opinion, the best product for this particular project. You can get it on Amazon. You're gonna have to wait a little bit, and I don't know if they carry it in craft stores anymore or not, but diamond glaze, seriously, it really is, in my opinion, the best for this particular project. So I've got my cabochon. Thank you, Corvus. I've got my cabochon, and if I had any actual cleaning products within arm's reach, I would actually clean the bottom of this cabochon with some denatured alcohol. Since I don't, I'm gonna rub it on my pants, because, you know, that's how I roll. And then we're gonna put this whole thing together. So we're gonna take our diamond glaze, and I've got some that's just subdivided into a little bottle, and I want to put a little drop of diamond glaze into my bezel, like so. And then I'm gonna put my black light piece in my bezel. This one? We can? We totally can. And then I'm going to put another couple of drops, 2 to 3 drops of diamond glaze on top. And I'm going to take my cabochon and I'm going to put that on top of my piece. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press down. And what I want to see, like, I don't know if you saw that, if you can see it kind of creeping up, but you want to see the diamond glaze sheet the whole thing. Because if you let go, you're going to get air pockets. So I'm going to press that down, and I'm just going to let my diamond glaze create an even layer there between my glass and my piece. And then what I will typically do in order to make sure that this cures well is I will take this and I will put something heavy on top of it, like a bench block or a heavy bead or something, because what happens is if you don't continue that pressure down, you can also clip it with a binder clip. If you don't continue that downward pressure on the glass, the diamond glaze will kind of stuck back up in there, and you're going to wind up with something that looks a little weird. But that, for the moment, is our black light pendant. So again, let me go ahead and turn that exposure down for you and throw up the black light so you can see what it looks like. So there we go. So those are all of our cool glowing black light colors. I actually really like this abstract one. I think it turned out really fun, but it really is just that easy to make these cool black light pendants. Again, all the supplies are available on Amazon. The black light paints, the cabochons, the bezels. That's the wrong tab that I'm tabbing right there. Now you can't see anything. And of course my goal usually is to make it so that my pendants look attractive even when they're not under black light. So, you know, creating something that, I mean, obviously if you're using black light reactive paints, there's a particular color palette that you are stuck with, because only certain colors will react under black light. So it's definitely very Lisa Frank and all of that, but I do like to try and make them so that when they're not under black light, they still look attractive. So that's what we've got here. So I'm pretty happy with this one. Actually, I think it looks really neat. So I'm going to put a heavy object or a binder clip on it. I'm going to let it dry. The diamond glaze, oh, let me read the actual product instructions, because, you know, I'm not always good at reading instructions. Wow. The instructions suck. So the diamond glaze takes about 5-6 hours to dry. So if you're going to weight these, or if you're going to clamp them, just keep them clamped for about 5-6 hours. Usually I'll just do them overnight and then they'll be good to go. That will, again, you want to make sure you've got that even line of diamond glaze under there so you don't see any bubbles. And once it cures in 5 or 6 hours, then you're good to go. Try first, then read the instructions. So that's it. That's our black light. So I didn't do a black light mandala pendant because I picked the wrong stamp, but that's a black light pendant, just generally speaking. And they are really fun you can, like, you're not gonna be able to see it unless I turn the exposure way down, but they're really cool. Hold on. I'll try one more time, just so you can see how fun it is. So there you go. So pretty nifty. And of course you can make them any size, any shape, any colors that you want within, of course, what is available as far as blacklight reactive paints go. But it's a fun project. Like, I actually enjoy doing these a lot, just because they're like tiny little art pieces that don't really require me to have any art skill. So I like that. So yes, next time I do a bulk bunch of them, I will stream it, because I'll be doing a lot of stamping on things like this. Okay, so that's it, people. I finished on time because it was a pretty simple project. So that's our blacklight pendants. So thank you all so much for hanging out with us on the Beading Dreams live tutorial stream and learning how to do these cool blacklight painted pendants. So we are going to be back in about 15 minutes with our podcast. We're going to be concluding the Hope Diamond, and we're going to be spilling a lot of tea about a lot of people who are no longer alive.
I added extra tea.
Heather added extra tea.
I did.
You can't miss that. Don't forget that sometimes StreamCord, Twitch, Discord, all of those things are really shitty with notifications. So don't wait to be notified.
Set a timer.
Set a timer. Come back here in 15 minutes and we will be talking about the Hope Diamond. So thank you all so much. So good to be back with y'all, and I will see you in 15 minutes. Bye, y'all.
I'm waving at no one.
You're not on camera yet.
I know. That's why I'm
what I know.
waving at no one.